In this video, I want to talk about vulnerability, the challenges of being vulnerable, the needs to be vulnerable, the whys, and how it is actually our culture. And this is very important because it's often difficult for us to be vulnerable, especially as we go up in Krishna consciousness, because we want to appear very strong to people. But the ramifications of that is that it makes it difficult for others to be vulnerable. And in this scenario, I'm equating vulnerability, or not exactly equating it, but vulnerability as being an aspect of humility. So it's really important to talk about. When I'm speaking about vulnerability, I should define what I'm talking about so we're clear. That's the ability to be real about our own failings, to be real about our weaknesses, and not to pretend that they don't exist. Of course, sometimes we pretend they don't exist even to ourselves. So I'm not talking about that. That's a different discussion. What I'm talking about is knowing where I stand spiritually, but not wanting anyone else to know that, and trying to show that I'm better. And there may be reasons we do that. It could be a genuine reason where I don't want to disappoint anyone. I don't want to let anyone down. I don't want to make them feel that when they become more Krishna conscious, they're also going to feel like this. It could be discouraging. It may be that I feel like I can't have close relationships with people if they know my flaws. It may be that I'm a perfectionist and I just can't even face that reality. It may be that I think I will be demeaned or rejected by our society or demoted. There's a fear around it, and ultimately that fear is that I could be shamed by others or many. If we look at our philosophy, well, let's say look at our history, we will see both in our philosophy and history that being vulnerable is very common amongst advanced devotees, admitting their faults publicly in their writings, in their songs, in their poems. We saw that often with Prabhupada. He was not afraid to admit his weaknesses, at least what he thought were his own weaknesses. Even though he was our spiritual master, sometimes he would talk about how he was afraid to give up, afraid to take sannyas. His spiritual master had to come and ask him twice. In his own words, I was horrified. In many ways, he expressed his inadequacies, saying, I'm not a pure devotee. Recently, I heard a story asked to a very senior godbrother of Srila Prabhupada, who at this point had been chanting japa for 78 years, and he was asked, when did you come to the point when you can chant purely? And he said, I do not chant purely. I haven't come to that point. So it's quite common. But what's interesting is in our culture, modern culture, it's not common. So we can bring in that modern cultural conditioning into ISKCON and not want to admit if we made a mistake, or may not want anyone to find out. We fear we'll be hung, shamed, it'll be known that we're not pure, and so forth. The problem with this is that we can't overcome our weaknesses unless we talk about them. We can't come out with them unless there's an environment in which we will not feel shamed, but we will feel accepted despite our faults. So then we get caught up in this, the difference between guilt and shame, which is guilt is that I feel bad that I did this, and shame is I feel bad that I'm a person, such a bad person who did this. And then in its worst incarnation, it becomes nobody likes me, I'm not likable, I'm not lovable, there's something wrong with me, etc., which is not a platform from which we generally, unless we're very advanced, maybe we think that way, but not as a byproduct of not being vulnerable. To think that way is unhealthy because we won't progress in Krishna consciousness. But amongst the many concerns about this, personal concerns, I also have the community concern that we don't want to create environments where we all have to show off that we're something we're not, that we're afraid to come out and say, I'm struggling with this. I can't do this. I'm having a difficult time following this instruction. Oh, you're bad. Everyone should know. We shouldn't associate with you. Of course, I'm exaggerating, but there are cases like that sometimes where devotees have been made to feel that way. So they've kept it inside. They've held on to their shame. It's destroyed them. Sometimes they've just left Krishna consciousness. They couldn't talk to anybody, couldn't open up. So we don't want to create cultures in our projects, in our temples, in our communities, where we make other members feel that they can open up and be heard without being judged and shamed. This is really, really important. Hare Krishna.